reviewing Snowpiercer Season 4, Episode 5, The Engineer. So we're about halfway through the final season of Snowpiercer, and I'm beginning to get really nervous about where this is going. I know there was a lot of hype for the return of Wilfred in this episode, and I think instead of him clarifying things or making it more interesting, he just confuses what was already a really messy plot. When there's been an opportunity to turn things, to make it more cohesive, streamline it, make things make sense, and have more stakes and intrigue, they've decided not to in favor of doing some kind of personal grudge match. And low-key, I'm really a little bit worried the whole return of Wilfred, as well as isolating Leighton in the same building with him, is to do a Wilfred-Leighton team-up that I never wanted or needed. And the more we get into this season 4, the further and further away I feel like we've gotten from the original roots of the show that made it really good. But let's dive right into it, starting with those characters. On Big Alice, we've got Leighton, and I guess it's not a surprise that he's willing to trade Big Alice for a chance to see Liana. Although it's not smart in any way, shape, or form, or advisable. Because while we find out that they took Liana specifically to get Leighton out of the way, at this juncture, I still really and truly thought they were doing some kind of experimentation on Liana. All of which seems like it could be really dangerous for a baby, or the people who are caring for her don't have her best interests at heart. So key for me would have been not just getting the child, but having a secure way to remove her from a dangerous situation. Leighton gives up when he hasn't even seen Liana yet. He just hears her voice supposedly over a phone call. And since we haven't heard Liana speak, I don't know why we are supposed to believe that suddenly she can speak and that she's saying pop pop over the phone to Leighton. Also, I don't know why we don't think that can't be faked very easily. It just seems like a very poor proof of life to me. Moving us into Josie. The numbness situation she's feeling is very concerning, and I'm really afraid this character who's been so core to the show and been such a big heart and soul of it is gonna get this quiet, immobilized, bedridden death, and I'm gonna be super sad about it. I do see how this could be a really good struggle for Josie if she ends up being bedridden most of the show, and also getting her out of the way lets other characters step up and into the action. But knowing that this is the last season, knowing this is going to be a final farewell to all of these characters, I'm very sad that Josie's not going to retain her regular role as being the heart and soul of the revolution. Now maybe we're able to retain some spirit of that here while she's bedridden. Maybe she won't be bedridden the whole show. I don't know. Also, I think it's a very sad character arc for Josie as a person. She started off in the tail administering and caring for others. In season 2, she ends up being a medical experiment for the Headwoods. Season 3, she gets to find her voice, find her power through all this experimentation, kind of live outside and beyond what they pushed her into. And to find her back here being some kind of medical experiment is just sad and also retreading ground we've already done with this character. Which brings us to Ruth. I don't know what was going through her head when she decided to connect Big Alice to Snowpiercer. Her one reason for being on this train is to make sure Big Alice gets back to New Eden on time. Yes, she wants the Liana retrieval to succeed, but she isn't here to make sure that happens. She is here to give them the chance, but to guarantee Big Alice is back. So I'm starting to question her mayor role and her ability to split loyalties between her friends and what she owes the community. I figure she had to connect so that we could make the story keep going, but this is a betrayal of Ruth's character that I did not appreciate. Which brings us to Alex, and I'm just curious, who the heck is this girl? In one breath, she's let's ditch Leighton and Josie and get back to New Eden. This is too dangerous. And the next breath, she's encouraging Ruth to connect Big Alice to Snowpiercer so that they can save Liana and get Leighton and Josie back. Girl, pick a side. And I guess this is generally going to be the waffling character arc of Alex going forward, because she decides to go to Wilfred and try and get information, and we have to wonder if she's going to retain her loyalty to Wilfred, or if she's hanging out with Wilfred but retaining her loyalty to New Eden. I don't know why we're so concerned about this, since Wilfred has been horrible to her for a long time. It seems very obvious that she's cold, she's collected, and she's never really been on Wilfred's side. The only time she was even sort of close to that is when we first met her in season 2, and that was when Wilfred was her only father, mentor sort of figure. So even though she's kind kind of kept everyone at arm's distance from here on out, she did reconnect with Melanie, sees her as a maternal figure. She is obviously caring about the people of New Eden and the survival of humanity as a whole, something she can clearly see Wilfred and her don't share. So it seems quite obvious to me that she would go back under Wilfred's wing, learn everything she can, and then go back to New Eden. It doesn't feel like there's a good push-pull on her loyalties here, or like even a good reason to team up with Wilfred beyond saving the world and then going their separate ways. I suppose she could always be talked into saving the world in a way that destroys New Eden, and we'll have to see if she's cold enough to manage that or not. But that's really the only question, not whether or not she has ties to Wilfred still. On Snowpiercer, we've got Till being Till. She's probably the most consistent character we have right now, and where a lot of the other characters seem to be acting in ways that will drive plot instead of acting in ways that their characters truly would embody. I appreciate that about her. We also have Ben, and hallelujah, this guy finally effing dies. I hate Ben. I've been on the anti-Ben train since I rewatched season 1 a little earlier this year, and I have never warmed up to him. I don't think he has a redemption arc. I don't think he's worthy of our compassion. I think he's dead weight on the team and often a problem. Finally doing this self-sacrificial act that lets the rest of the team go off and do all the good things they've been doing for 3 seasons is great to me. The fact that we get to watch him actually freeze to death so we know there's no coming back, 2 thumbs up. And if this ends up driving Melanie and Alex to doing the right thing and siding with New Eden and the people of the train of Snowpiercer, all the better. But whatever goes on moving forward, no more Ben can only be a good thing in my heart. We've got Miles, he's going to New Eden. It's sad that he's still separated from Layton and Josie, who are now stuck at the bunker while Miles is going to New Eden. If we're seeing Miles as a child still within the show, the 2 parents sacrificing so that their child can have a better life sort of is on brand. Tristan continues helping the revolution and he gets to go on Big Alice to New Eden too. Yay, Tristan, small arc for you. Melanie is missing all this episode, and we do have to wonder a little bit about this. Like, is she being used as some kind of experiment? Is she actually off base getting samples and research? How much does she or does she not know what's going on and what they're willing to do to achieve these goals? And I guess this mystery is supposed to sort of entice us wondering, like, if the outcome does justify the means. Does Melanie know exactly what's going on and she's co-signing it? Or is Melanie in the dark about it and wouldn't be okay with it? I do think it's interesting that we're using Melanie as like this pivotal character of morality in this way, because as we've seen throughout the show's run, Melanie is not a very ethical character. I understand why the train relies on her to interpret scientific data. There's just not that many people left in the world who can do that, and she does break that down in a decent way. She is often pretty good about stepping back and giving the pros and cons and letting someone else make the ethical choice. Like, we need her trusted data to make an informed decision, but the way the characters are going about it, like, does Melanie know what's going on? Did Melanie approve this? Blah, blah, blah. Seems to suggest that they trust her ethics, and I think that's a big mistake. And then moving into those international peacekeepers, we have the Admiral. We're getting more and more pieces revealed about him. But the more we learn about him, the weirder his plans seem to me. Nima happens to ask Alex if she's been getting nosebleeds in New Eden, which sort of suggests that the nosebleeds and the bubble situation is connected to needing to launch all the rockets off into the atmosphere to warm the whole Earth up. Maybe like the pocket Nima created is temporary and it won't stabilize unless we get all the CW7 down from the entire atmosphere. If it's true that the New Eden bubble is temporary and they need to shoot these rockets off to keep that space and all other spaces good for people, then technically whatever they're doing on Snowpiercer and whatever they need to do to Big Alice is all for the greater good, because there's no long-term survival in New Eden. But if that's true, if they needed Snowpiercer, if they needed Big Alice, it would have made so much more sense for the Admiral to have approached Snowpiercer and to approach New Eden in a diplomatic fashion, to have evacuated New Eden, to take both the trains, do the thing they need to do. We all get to celebrate and go outside. I think if New Eden learned there was an expiration date on their colony, they'd be willing to give up their colony in the short term for a long-term ability to stay and live there. And you would have had like way more willing volunteers working on Snowpiercer, maybe even people from New Eden going back to Snowpiercer to do this work. You wouldn't have to worry about all these people coming in and attacking you and sabotaging your plans. It just seems like if all of this is actually connected as Nima is suggesting, and if there's like actually a through line that makes sense, then the way the Admiral's gone about this makes no sense. And if we can't trust the Admiral and Nima and they're lying to us and there's something nefarious going on, then this story they've weighed down seems like not to be very cohesive. I still have nothing to say about Nima. He's here in the script. And I really don't have much to say about Hedwig either, other than the fact that she's like a little bit of a lying, nefarious bitch. Her and her husband have always been a little bit odd. It makes sense to me that she would have been even more unbalanced after his passing, and maybe that she would have wanted vengeance on some people, or she would be unwilling to help certain people. But given that we've seen her working in New Eden for 9 months, it's just odd, this like heel turn that's gone on in her character. I don't care about Hedwig or like purity of her character that much. If we just want like an evil mad scientist to have one, I guess fine. We are wasting time then with her dialogue and like her trying to be compelling and caring when it just doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and have her be scenery chewing and like incredibly evil and just like sign up to the Wilfred team or whatever. Speaking of which, I guess it's time to talk about Wilfred. I don't understand what his role in the show is right now. Like, I get it, he was banished from Snowpiercer, he was found by the Admiral, and he's been living here. I think maybe we're gonna find out that he has something special about his blood going on, given that we get to see Josie and Wilfred's blood seem to be like exchanged. And maybe like his super special blood is what's keeping him around, but even then, why haven't we like locked him up? I really don't know why the Admiral is agreeing to work with him unless he really needs that engineering skill, because Wilfred is a talented engineer in his own right. And especially, I don't know why the Admiral would base his plans based off of what would make Wilfred happy. Like the fact that Wilfred is there holding Liana in the closing shot, and Wilfred openly admits this is only for vengeance and spite. This doesn't necessarily seem like the Admiral's MO. And the Admiral has been super disdainful of Snowpiercer as a whole, like of the books, of the luxury, of all the stuff that Wilfred put into the train for his amusement and to keep him happy. So it argues to me that the Admiral must think that Wilfred is like a mollycoddled, useless little person. So why then is he going so far out of his way to accommodate Wilfred? It just is very much at odds with like these one-line little builds we've had on the Admiral versus the relationship we see here with Wilfred. Which brings us into the theme. Climate change is real / environmentalism. We're still building that storyline of humanity trying to like make the Earth livable again. It's getting more convoluted as we go, and I don't love that for us. We also have the loneliness, isolation, and loss of normality very strongly in this story. All the groups and pairs of people we've seen work together have been split and changed again. And I am theorizing that we're preparing to see a Leighton Wilfred team up against the International Peacekeepers, and I'm really unhappy about it. I think it's possible we're building some more themes like with Are the Kids Okay? Or Resistance is Never Useless, or like an examination of class warfare. I haven't entirely abandoned those, but at this juncture, we're halfway through, and I don't know that any of them necessarily apply to what we've watched so far. Snowpiercer is a show that historically has had a really tight last 2 episodes. So it's possible that none of this comes together until then, and my fussing is all for naught. But as things stand right here, the show has a lot of work to do and very little time to do it. So I'm hoping we're about to see things speed up and for me to get like some moments of happiness again that I was, enjoying a little bit in the first episode. But really, that's where we are right now with Snowpiercer Season 4. Are you guys watching the show still? Tell me in those comments down below. And if you still are watching the show, give me your current theory about why Wilfred is back and what he's going to offer the show this season. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep reading.